Hi, my name is Kathryn. I'm Kathryn Green Textiles and I'm here at Making Space in Studio 17. And today I'm doing a Q&A with Ami, just to introduce you to me and my studio and my work and how I'm working on my new latest collection. So yeah, that's me, Ami.
Hello, this is me from behind the camera. So I've got a list of questions that I'm going to go through with Kathryn. So to start off with, Kathryn, tell us what you're inspired by.
I am predominantly inspired by the natural world, the natural environment, landscapes, nature. It's very much, and it's about texture and surface for me. But I also, I'm inspired by everything around, like, art, museums, gallery. I love the V&A. I just love wandering through the galleries and seeing different things. It might be glass, it might be ironwork, it's going to be fabrics, the Islamic section, all those things. They all feed in, whether it's colour. I also love to travel, and of course everywhere you travel you experience a different culture, languages, people, sight, sound, smells, all those things. So they all feed in different ways to my work. But I think moment particularly nature.
Amazing. And what's the inspiration for your current work, what you're working on now? Talk us through that.
My work is nature. It's sort of based on a big road trip that my husband and I did to Scotland last year. Which is a long time ago in that current climate.
Yeah.
And we had an amazing time, extraordinary landscapes, really beautiful. And again, I spent most of the time sort of grovelling on the ground, taking photos of sort of close-ups of texture and surfaces, but also sort of rock strata and formations. And so that's very much what I've been looking at for this current collection. That's been my starting point. Yeah.
Amazing. So once you've got your inspiration, how does a project start for you?
It always starts, I take a lot of photographs. So wherever I am, it starts with sort of photographs. I also do then some little sketches. They're not really, I'm not sort of a big sketchbook drawer person. There might be things like rubbings.
Okay, nice.
To get surfaces and textures. So I'll sort of gather visual information, but it's sort of primary source, so it's when I'm there and what I'm doing, and then I'll come into the studio and evolve it, and I might just do little stitch bits of something. I'll gather objects. So stones are a big one, beautiful stone. And shells. So I'll gather that together and then I'll assemble a mood board.
Lovely.
That. So
that's my next question.
I nearly always do a mood board because I like to have that visual sort of collection sort of together, and I quite like sort of curating those. So I've got, so this is my mood board.
Oh, amazing.
See that?
Yeah, that looks great.
So as you can see, it's a collection of little stones and shells, tiny little just sample sketches, little samples of fabric that I've started to sample, and the photographs. And fabric often appears, so we were up in Harris, so I wanted some Harris tweed with that one as well, some sheep's wool. So, and that actually starts to reflect colours in that. So it's sort of these colour references. And then I look at artists. So I went to oh my goodness, I can't remember his name now, an exhibition at Tate Britain, and saw this artist, which I've forgotten his name. But somehow then I started to put, and it was completely different, but there was something in the lines of the work which reflected some of the line in the stone, and the colours really started to chime in with the colours in the shells. So, it started quite muted, but actually you suddenly realise that you can pick
pops
out
of colours.
So that's that one, and then I've got another one which is the same sort of thing. I've got some rubbings on there.
Oh, lovely.
And more photos and little samples, fabric samples. So to me, sort of putting those together gives me a really good reference point that I can just keep sort of referring back to. I like having them together, and I like putting them together as well.
Lovely.
Yeah.
What do you do? Do you always keep them up in your studio so you can always see them, or once is that kind of?
I do keep them up in my studio. I think there actually comes a point where it would probably be a good idea to put them away, because it is a starting point.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I can get a bit hooked up on
being sort of too literal.
Too literal, keep referring back, whereas actually work evolves massively, and you don't want to get sort of hung up on it.
Sort of allowing that creative process to evolve naturally.
So
rather
I don't
than
look at it as much as time goes on, but there could be something with actually putting them away that maybe I need to think about.
Lovely. And what are you looking for in your inspiration? You said you take these photos and you do these rubbings. What are you looking for in gathering all that inspiration together?
I mean, my work's very textural, and that's sort of where I look to go, because then the techniques that I'm looking at sort of are drawing on those. So I am looking at surface quite a lot. I am looking at texture, but I'm also looking at sort of shape and form and structure in landscape, because that starts to form ideas about composition.
Okay.
I think I do home in on texture, and sometimes I need to sort of actually step back and think about composition a bit more. But those are things, colours are a massive thing for me. So it is really sort of trying to sort of find those.
It's almost giving you your colour palette, but from that initial inspiration.
Exactly, from that initial inspiration. But again, realising that doesn't necessarily have to be literal. So you might think, oh, that brown's beautiful in nature, but that's going to be a bit dirty.
Yeah.
So you just take an element of that and you think, well, how do I sort of lift that? A bit like as I was referencing the artist, you know, you suddenly can change that up. But they're the things I look for when I'm. Yeah.
Amazing. So you've gathered all this amazing inspiration, you've created your mood board. What happens next? What's like the next step in your creative process?
It's usually saying, come on, Kathryn, just do something. just do it, because I'm a bit of a one.
You get kind of stuck,
and I get quite stuck. So it's now I need to just do some experimentation. So I need to just start so I tend to get some bits of cloth and start working on, well, certainly with this one I did, it's not always quite the right way around, but little bits of fabric, just small bits. You know, I've made that mistake in the past and worked on big bits and wasted loads of fabric.
Yeah.
So just little samples of just, with this one certainly it was about starting textural samples and just exploring that idea of how I can use the techniques, sort of bend the techniques I use to sort of try and get the information that I want. So that would be dyeing, resist dyeing, sort of shibori, printing, different forms of printing, so maybe a bit of mono printing. It could just be breakdown printing, which is a process where the screen sort of just disintegrates. So different ways, you know, with this project particularly, it was that sort of idea of nature and fragments and texture, and so thinking, what do I know and how can I use what I know to get what I want?
Yeah.
Which doesn't always work that way, but it's, you know, it's a starting point to sort of.
I suppose part of it is the experiment, like what comes from them, the unknown outcomes that you can't always anticipate beforehand.
And it's allowing yourself to do that, and it's allowing yourself to do the what ifs and not worry about failures, because, you know, none of it's failing. Somebody said once, they said, there's no failures, it's all learning. And that I hang on to that. I tell myself that a lot, you know, because it's all information. So everything you gather, you know, you're probably not going to like a lot of it, but there are bits that you sort of extrapolate and you think, okay, that bit worked, that bit didn't. Right, how can I take that on? So I think with this project, I worked in that way, and I started, you know, trying to bend my techniques of resist and print to sort of get what I wanted out of it.
I think that's a really important sort of lesson for lots of creatives to take as well. I think lots of people get fixed on they've got to try and get there straight away, and actually part of the journey is the the experimentation and
exactly,
exploring, and there's real value in that.
And there is value in that. And I think, you know, often people are up against time constraints, which is a big problem.
Yeah.
You know, and I have had a bit more of a luxury of time, which has been, you know, really helpful. I think, because then it does make me push things ideas more, rather than just think, okay, that's the time, and you know, that's what I work with. So, it is. Yeah, it's that process. You have to go through all the agony.
Yeah. So you are Kathryn Green Textiles, and obviously historically we know you for your beautiful shibori and dyed scarves.
Yeah.
But surrounding your studio, as I look around now, there's a lot of paper around you. So talk me through that. What are the big paper pieces all about?
Well, I mean, these are basically my sketches. As I said earlier, I find it really hard working a sketchbook. I don't really like that format, and I often go from working sort of micro, sort of little bits, you know, quite sort of close, small things, to macro, and these are sort of my macro, and it's they're like paper sketches. I use lining paper, and they help me be a bit bold with trying things, because I can use them on scale, say it's similar scale to my scarves, but it's a bit of lining paper. It's not, you know, 2.5 meters of expensive fabric. So it's really allowed me to be bold and express myself a bit more. And I think with this project, I've sort of started to work in a slightly different direction. I'm thinking more in an art textile direction, in a hangings direction anyway, and sort of one-off pieces, from which hopefully then I will then do a collection of scarves and sort of accessories anyway. But the focus on this is sort of these one-off pieces. So it's been quite exciting, and it really has opened me up actually a lot, and it's taken me in a completely different direction to the one I was going in. And it hasn't, because I was getting a bit stuck. You know, I've done my textile samples, but it was all sort of getting a bit, so I was shrinking rather than expanding, and not quite sure where to go next. And it's really opened things up again. It's helped me look at composition a lot more, because I was very much fixed on texture. So I've started to look at composition and how to sort of put things together. And these, you know, these won't necessarily be literally translated into textiles. It will be more about taking the elements, understanding what is it about each one that works or doesn't work. You know, I look around and I think, well, I don't like that, and I don't like that, but that doesn't work. But that little bit I'm quite excited by. So what am I going to do with that? So now I'm beginning to think about how to then take them back towards textiles. So I will go back to the board now of looking at different resist techniques and different techniques that maybe I can take these elements that work. But a lot of these have a lot of sort of structural stitch in them.
Yeah, I can see them in the ones behind you.
Form. And I'm quite excited by that idea. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do.
I think it's a really exciting, I think for anyone that's been following your work, or maybe that came to last year's Open Studios to see this, it's like, whoa, this is all really new, and that's exciting.
Yeah, it's nice, and it's nice for me actually. I think I was ready to sort of start exploring.
But you can see there's a relationship still to your existing shibori work, like even just seeing the peaks of the scarves underneath there, you can see it's the same work, but it's just a different format. And I think the combination of the stitched elements in there, and also your use of negative space as well, I think is really lovely.
It has given me a good sense of space, which I like. So I need to think how I'm going to be able to use that in a textile, because I mean, and if it's something that's sort of worn or draped, you know, we can be quite scared of too much negative space in that sense. So it's how I can use that, whereas actually I've been finding it really exciting, that sense of negative space. And I mean, I've done some which are literally just stitched, structural stitch, and so it's the bones of something. That's quite nice. You just really look at the shapes, So yeah, different elements are coming out. It's really making me look at things in a very different way. And I'm quite excited because I don't know where it's going to go next. And I'll probably be more tears before I finish and try and get it back to textiles again. But I'm excited at the moment, yeah.
That's really good. Well, that moves me on to my next question, which is like, how do you move these ideas forward now?
Yeah.
Like, you've got to this stage, what happens next? How do you take them on? Yeah.
I know. And that is the challenge. I mean, I find that each step, I get into a groove with a step and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is good. And then it's like, okay, now it has to move again.
Yeah.
And that's, again, leads to a bit of agonising and a bit of sort of procrastination, thinking, well, how can I do this? And for me, it's very much, I just have to keep myself moving and keep myself trying things. So I think, as I said, I'm now going to start coming back to experiment with some smaller textile samples, looking at, and I've been studying these a lot now, thinking, well, what is about that works? You know, taking a bit of time out, thinking, what do I like? What works? Why does it work? So if it's a space, then I need to start thinking about, well, how am I going to sort of create that space in a positive sense on a piece of fabric? How am I going to get these sort of collaged elements back into fabric, probably without doing lots of sort of applique things? So it's going to be looking at, techniques that can create texture and resisting areas and trying to build up layers. So I've got a lot now.
So it's more like the practical experimentation stage
I'm going
now.
to be going back to the practical of looking at what I know and probably trying to learn a huge amount that I don't know. To try and sort of put it back on, but it will be starting small again, and just trying some things out. But I will probably carry on working with paper alongside, just doing more, because it takes the stress off, the emphasis, like, right, this is it now.
So you've got to get a good result.
Got to get it right. If I dip in and I'm like, I'll try that today, and then I'll come back to the the paper pieces, and I think that will just help keep everything moving. So that's the idea. And then once I have got something, then it will be working that up on a bigger scale of cloth.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm running ahead now, but I was going to, when it comes to cloth, it will be decisions of what fabric do I use for the purpose, what's going to be fit for purpose.
We were talking about the purpose earlier, the kind of shift from wearable art, like your scarf, to actual kind of art textile pieces. So it's a piece of art that someone might hang on their wall or in their home or in a hotel or a gallery.
Different fabric, different wear on it, different processes to use that will work. So there's a lot of those decisions to make as well. And then from that, if I then want to do the scarf collection, which elements am I going to take to put back onto that? So there's still a long way to go.
Well, I suppose being a piece of art on the wall as opposed to something you drape around the body, there's all the thoughts about how it's hung. Is it suspended? Is it mounted on a canvas? There's all of those things which aren't your usual
they're not.
repertoire.
And I think they're really hard, that bit about displaying textiles. It is such a hard thing to actually do that well. And for me, doing it well is really important. You know, how something is framed or hung is just as important as any other decision you'll make, because it gives the piece integrity in its setting. So yes, and that is a constant headache, that bit. I haven't
I suppose that's part of that is research, chatting to other artists, other textile artists.
Definitely.
You've got Agatha here who stretches her own canvases. So
yes, exactly. They're making ideas to find.
But finding something that works for you and the pieces that you're creating as well, because every piece is going to be different, and that's important to showcase it.
That's exactly
right.
Really well. Yeah. So there's all those decisions to make. But I think you're right. Talking to people is always great.
It's expanding your knowledge and you're learning, aren't you? I think that's part of being an artist, is you're continually learning and growing and expanding. Definitely. And that's really important.
And that's really, really important to me. To carry on learning is really important. And I love the learning part. I love that, talking to other people and sharing ideas and information, and that's just great. So yeah, that's a
Lovely.
good bit for me.
So what are the important qualities of your work and your brand? What's the sort of core values and the qualities that you aspire to?
I think quality is really important to me, and that's sort of, I know that's a bit of a version of quality, but I always want to work with beautiful fabrics, and I do work with natural fibres, and I like working with natural fibres. I like the feel of them and the way they respond to the dyes. So quality is really important, and it's something I never want to compromise on. And it's sort of knowing when something is resolved and resolving it to the best possible standard that I can. You know, like we're talking about things like hanging. You know, that's just as important. And the making of the piece, that has to be really good. And I mean, and that then is consistent across my whole sort of Kathryn Green textiles. I like my website to look really good. The photographs, I have a wonderful friend who takes them, and she gets it.
She understands what you're looking for. Yeah.
It, and she takes beautiful photographs, and that's really important. And my business cards, and the packaging, and the words. You know, the how I sort of represent myself through what is written about me. You know, and I've had massive help with that as well from myself. And from Catherine Russell as well, and that's made a massive difference. Because actually going through that with somebody else, they reflect back on you, and you think, "Oh God, that is me."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I hadn't realised that. So it's
we always say,
quite
don't we?
nice.
Sometimes someone else talking about you reveals things that you're like, "Oh, I didn't even realise I did that," but I do that, and that's why I do that, which is an enlightening experience, isn't it?
It's very enlightening. So that's, you know, that's all really important to me, that sort of standard and quality, and how I present myself and my work and represent myself and my work across all areas.
I think that's really important for anyone that's making a brand and a business out of their art. Yeah. Because one part of what you do is creating the artwork, is that artistic side, but then you have to flip that and you have to see it from a business point of view if you want to make a viable business out of it. So then it is all the things like the marketing, the publicity, your social media presence, all those other things are part of the business, which is kind of the unexpected side of being an artist and a freelancer, which I know especially at the moment loads of freelancers are really struggling. Yes, exactly. But I think it's important to keep those values. Yeah. Because that's what puts your brand at a higher level, and that's really important.
It is important. You know, I've looked at lots of things, and particularly, you know, as you say, we are all struggling, you know, a lot, and you think, well, should I compromise on that or do that? And I just think no, because I'm not being authentic, I'm not being true to me, and that's not where I want to be or what I'd be happy being.
And it's valuing and putting realising your worth, and actually you spent a lot of time like this whole exploring and experimenting stuff. That's all part of the finished products that people are buying. They're not just buying a reproduction piece. They're buying months of work. Yeah, exactly. They're buying months of work and
tears in there.
Exactly. And I think when people, there is a higher price tag attached to those things because of the amount of work that goes into it. Yeah. The finishing and the packaging, and that's really important to kind of,
and the thought that goes through. You know, they are buying a bit of me. Yeah. You know, it all goes in there, and it is all thought through as well. You know, so it's the whole thing for me. Yeah. I mean, you know, I'm not great at the social media side of things, as you know, Amy.
We can't all be good at everything.
I really struggle with that, you know. But even what I choose to put on there, I want there's an aesthetic to it that I want it to have. I don't meddle with any of that stuff, but I try and take something that I think looks beautiful. Yeah. You know, so or interesting.
And we've talked about all creatives at the moment are finding things hard, especially now. So do you, in addition to doing your own work, do you support your practice in other ways? Is there another way that you look to kind of bring income in to support you doing this type of work?
I mean, you know, I have to try and do that, and I do workshops from the studio and one-to-ones, which actually I really enjoy. Yeah. I mean, at the moment, you know, I did have sort of a series of small group ones planned, but unfortunately I can't do them at the moment. Hopefully there will be a time when they come
Fingers
again.
crossed.
Fingers crossed. but I know I can safely do a one-to-one in my
Yeah.
studio, and that's what I was doing, you know, before, and then I had workshops in making space as well, and so that's really, and that's the ongoing plan, to sort of try and one support the other.
Yeah.
And also you learn from that as well. I learn a lot from doing those, and you know, you meet interesting people, and so I do that, which is great.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
And how, I mean, your studio is so inspiring, so I can imagine anyone coming in here, as soon as they step inside, are like, wow, they just want to make, because it's such a visually beautiful space. No, it is, it really is. But tell us a little bit more about that, because that's something that maybe people don't realise you do, and actually, especially now when people maybe can't go out and go to the theatre or do those things, that's a really nice personal thing that people can do for themselves. So how does that work? How do they book onto a one-to-one with you?
Yeah,
what subjects do they cover?
On my website, I've got a page with all my contact details.
Amazing.
And I'm also on craft courses as well, so you can find me on there, or my website, or through Making Space, the online shop on Making Space, and just contact me. And I because they're one-to-ones, they can be very personal to that person.
Lovely. Yeah.
I like having a little chat to them first to find out where they're at, what they're interested in. You know, some people aren't that confident, and I hope that people can come here and we can just make it, personalise it, and you know, and I listen to what they're saying and what I think that they may be wanting to get out of it, and you know, then work with that. So I do a mixture of sort of printing and shibori and dyeing workshops.
Lovely.
We do some little drawing ones, some sort of expressive drawing.
Yeah.
More about just allowing people to
free themselves.
Be free yourself up a bit. You know, draw large, draw on the floor, draw on a big stick. You know, just rather than that idea, I always, you know, remember thinking, I can't draw, and you're stuck there with a pencil
trying to draw something really realistic, and
you know, and it just destroys your confidence. So, you know, all those different things we can do, but I just try and make it a really relaxed and happy day, with room for conversation, with room for a bit of mentoring, a bit of ideas, and to allow somebody just to explore themselves, what they actually.
It's almost teasing it out of them, isn't it?
Yeah, in a
supportive environment.
And you know, I want them to go away at the end of the day feeling good about themselves, feeling inspired, and thinking, "Oh, I did that."
Yeah.
You know, so that's sort of what I'm trying to achieve from that, and it's a nice feeling.
And how long are these workshops? Are they? Can it vary because they're bespoke?
It can vary because they're bespoke. You know, if someone comes and they've got something quite specific that they want to get out of it, we can do that completely. And so I do, at the moment, I've got somebody coming, she's doing a series of 4-hour ones over, you know, sort of every other week. And she wants to learn about printing techniques that she can then put back into her stitch work. She does a lot of stitch work.
Amazing.
So she's doing that way. Generally, I'll do, somebody came yesterday and did a day one-to-one. That's the second one. She's come
amazing.
Back. She's done
That's
nice.
One.
So the first time they sort of explored different print things, and this time they did some shibori dyeing and developed their print work more. And that was a day session, so sort of 6 hours.
That's such a nice option at the moment, especially because, you know, I know
really
lots of people are still anxious about a normal workshop like we would do here, where you might have 10 people, can feel a bit at the moment. So the one-to-one sessions.
One-to-one is good, you know. I mean, at the moment, all the doors and windows are open. When you're wearing masks, I'm very conscious of people's sort of well-being and safety as well. So,
amazing.
But you can still come and have a
lovely day. No, that's really lovely.
Hopefully.
And how do you you're still selling your work as well?
Yeah, I am still
how
selling my work.
And where do you sell your work at the moment? Where, if someone wants to buy one of your lovely scarves, where can they get that from?
They can on the Making Space online shop. I've got some on the Support Artists Pledge.
Oh, amazing.
Still. On Instagram, that's still going around somewhere. Direct from my website. It's not a shop front, but there's prices and information.
So people, if they see something they like, get in touch.
I've had that, people emailing me, and you know, and I can give them more information and that sort of thing. So that, come and see me. Yeah. Word of mouth, and I mean, I did have some craft fairs lined up, but they've gone out the window. I don't feel that's appropriate, but I have got, I'm a member of the Hampshire and Berkshire Guild of Craftsmen.
Oh, amazing.
And at the moment, their show at the beginning of November in Odiham Barnes, that's going ahead. at the moment, and so I'll be displaying there. Hopefully, something new.
That's something, yeah.
That's the aim.
Yeah.
That's what I'm aiming
Amazing.
for. Something new for them.
And when was that?
That is the first weekend in November.
Lovely.
I think it's the first, second even, something like that. But it's first
Fantastic.
weekend in November, Hampshire, Berkshire Guild. And I also have them with Blindborn at the moment.
Amazing.
Yeah, they brought quite a few of my scarves for their current collection, which, I mean, sadly, you know, they've been closed for business, but they are opening now for their summer season. But they've also, it's on their online shop as well. So that's
nice that you've still got a few events in the calendar to look forward
to
later
little
on.
aims later on. And I mean, I did get accepted at Farnham Festival of Crafts, but I just decided I didn't feel that
ready
for that, so I haven't done that this year. But you know, looking towards next year, and I've got one in Hilliers next year with the Guild as well, and hopefully next year, you know, more venues, and that side of
and
things.
hopefully by then people will be itching
to
get out to go to these events. And
but I am, you know, open for business, and anyone can contact me. Anyone can contact me just for a chat to find out stuff. You know, I'm always up for that. So
that's lovely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. In lieu of actual Open Studios events, I think it's been lovely, and it's really nice for the people that come and support us and that follow your work, I think, to have seen what you've been up to this year.
It's quite nice, and it's nice to be able to show people, you know, it is still going on.
We're still going on, we might not be open, but it's still happening.
Yeah, it's still happening, we're still here, and we can't wait to see you all again when we're open, so yeah.
Lovely, well thank you so much for that, Kathryn.
Thank you, Amy.
Take care.